Hey everybody, this is Justice bringing you another video from the Diablo 3 PTR for the 2.4 patch that is upcoming. We're doing something a little bit different today. This is very much a homebrew build, if you will. Let's call it Build a Wizard. So the Legacy of Nightmares set, which you can see here, has been redone. It's been talked about probably a lot already because they've nerfed it on the PTR, realizing how silly it was because right now the bonus is when you have both rings equipped, and it's your only item set bonus. Every ancient item you have equipped increases your damage dealt by 100%, reduces your damage taken by 4%. That 100% used to be 800% and made things absolutely ridiculous. You could push Greater Rifts like you never could before. It was the only way to go. Using sets other than this one was pointless because the damage output was just insane. So they lowered it because they didn't want Legacy of Nightmares to be literally the only thing that people were looking at. They wanted other sets to still be viable. So they nerfed it a bit. That significant a nerf necessary? Maybe, maybe not. That's debatable. Maybe it could be 200%. But either way, it does allow us to play around with a lot of cool things. So, today I'm going to show off a build of my own creation. I'm really enjoying it, and I think you guys will too if you give it a shot. I will give you the quick disclaimer, it is not 100% completed as far as gear goes. So, Justice, why are you showing us a build that's not completed? Well, good question, I'm glad you asked. Two main reasons. One, I'm really excited about it, and I want to show it off. And the PTR is a habit of, resetting or shutting down or whatever, and I want to make sure that I get this video out. And two, I've actually spent more time on this build than I have on probably the others that I put together, just because of the amount of time that it's taken to try to gather the necessary gear. So I have most of what I need. It's enough that the build works. It's not enough that it's pushing as high as it possibly can, but it's still pretty decent. So I'll show you guys what it is. I'll show you where you can make some substitutions. But let's go over what the build is, and I'll actually go to the skills first, and then we'll come back to the gear so you can see exactly what we're doing. So this build focuses on Disintegrate. It's a skill I've always enjoyed, just because you get to just fire a giant laser beam at everything. So it's really a lot of fun. So this is going to be a fire-based build. It is a damage over time build, and that is important to keep in mind as we go along. And before I continue, I forgot to mention this in the beginning. I will have an annotation in the beginning, and I'm sure you've already seen it by now. But if you did just want to skip to gameplay, go back towards the beginning of the video. There will be an annotation, so you can do that if you're not really interested in hearing the breakdown of the build. So this is going to be focused on Disintegrate. This is the main skill. Now again, I'm going to be switching back and forth because the skills and the gear really go hand in hand. The reason why we're doing this is right here, the Etch Sigil. The legendary powers your Arcane Torrent, Disintegrate, and Ray of Frost. In this case, Disintegrate's the important part here. Also casts one of your other damaging arcane power spenders every second. So, that is very cool. To complement that, we have Death Wish, which is while channeling Arcane Torrent, Disintegrate, Ray of Frost, all damage is increased by between 75 to 100%. Mine rolled a little bit low, but it's the only ancient one I've gotten, so we're using it. Also, Mantle of Channeling. While channeling a bunch of different things from a few different classes, one of them being Disintegrate, you deal between 20 to 25% increased damage. One of my things actually rolled well, who knew? And take 25% reduced damage. So that's nice. So while channeling, you deal more damage and take less damage. Very, very nice. And I'm going to go over this real quick here. Energy Twister periodically pulls in lesser enemies within 30 yards. That's why we're using Energy Twister. It's actually super helpful. I guess I might as well just go over the rest of the gear real quick. The rest of this, honestly, is just the best in slot ancient items that I had. So this is not anything special. It's just, what you want on your boots, though. Int, Vit, all resist, disintegrate damage. The pants are just random ancient pants that I had, Infit, armor. The belt is good. Witching Hour is nice because of the crit damage. There are a couple of other options as well. The biggest option, I would say, is what I have cubed right now. Here, it's just Furnace and Unity, which is normal. But here for the armor, it's Hurgbrash's Binding, which is a belt. Reduces arcane power cost of Arcane Torrent, Disintegrate, and Ray of Frost by 65%. Super helpful. It means that it's free, actually. If you don't have full arcane power and you start channeling, you'll actually regain more arcane power than you're spending. So your Disintegrate is essentially free, which is important because it means you can just spam it on everything and never have to worry about your arcane power. Because of that, the other option is if you have an Ancient Hurtbrash's Binding and you're willing to lose the crit damage off Witching Hour, you can equip the Binding and instead cube the Aquila Cuirass, which is well above between 75 to 85. So if you cube it, it'll be 75% primary resources. All damage taken is reduced by 50%. That would be really big too, if you can do that. I haven't found an Ancient Hurtbrash's Binding, so that has been an option for me. Plus the damage on the Witching Hour is nice. But if you want to do that, that is an option. That's another just huge boost in damage reduction. The rest of the stuff is, show the Mandal of Channeling. This is just a random Ancient Helm that I had. Again, nothing special. You could do better things than this, even something like a Leoric's Crown would be better. This is just the best that I had. And again, you want an amulet with int, crit damage, crit chance, suck it. As far as legendary gems go, again, this is a damage over time build. So, Bane of the Stricken, mine's pretty low rank. I actually need to rank it up more, but that's what you want to be using here. Gem of Efficacious Toxin is really nice. Probably the best gem for damage over time. It does a lot of damage over time by itself, and also everything you hit then immediately starts taking 10% more damage. I'm going with Bane of the Powerful right now. I'm trying a triple offensive gem build. As you push up, you may not be able to do that. If you're going to replace a gem, it's going to be this one. You have a few options here. Esoteric Alteration, Wildebeest Gizzard. If you want to try a different offensive gem, other things I played around with are Zai's Stone of Vengeance. Which is good, because this is a ranged build, but because you are standing still channeling, things have a tendency to jump on you, thereby kind of negating Zai's. So, Zai's is certainly an option if you want to go that way. The other option is, of course, Taiguk, since you are constantly spending a resource. I personally just hate having to maintain Taiguk stacks and remembering to cast my spender when not in combat. So, Bane of the Powerful. Also, honestly, the trash mobs, they generally melt pretty quickly, so I'm really looking for elite damage. So that's Bane of the Powerful gives, plus Bane of the Stricken as well. So, that's that. Again, let's go back to the skills. Now that you know how everything works, we're going to use Energy Twister Gale Force, because the Twister, again, it will pull in things, and anything it hits means that your enemies take 15% increased damage from fire for 4 seconds. So again, it's just another damage amplification. Very, very nice. Blizzard, Apocalypse, just a fire damage. Blizzard is just really good for AoE, covering the whole screen, even things you're not directly hitting with Disintegrate, and applying your Gem of Efficacious Toxin as well. The thing is, because Etch Sigil only fires one Arcane Power Spender each second, you don't want to fill up your entire skill bar with Arcane Power Spenders. In fact, quite the opposite. You want to know exactly what you're going to be casting. You want to pick your most important skills and have it casting them as often as possible. That's why I actually only have 2 Arcane Power Spenders, aside from Disintegrate. Because I want to know that I am constantly spamming Blizzards and Energy Twisters. So that's why the rest are just going to be buffs. We're going to go with Familiar Sparkflint, which is just going to give us a 10% damage buff. Go with Magic Weapon Force Weapon for their 20% damage buff. You could go Ignite, but honestly, I really don't see the point. It's another 300% weapon damage as fire over 3 seconds. It is another damage over time, but it's a very small dot, so I really don't think it's worth it. The extra 10% damage to me is just much better. Then we're going to go Energy Armor Force Armor. Gives us more armor. The important part here is that we can't just get instantly burst down. Anything that would deal more than 35% of our max life instead deals 35%, so we're guaranteed to survive at least a couple attacks. As far as passives go, I'm going Glass Cannon. Again, we are getting a lot of toughness, and our last passive is going to give us even more, so I'm willing to take the toughness hit in order to get the damage buff. We're going to counteract that somewhat by Blur, with decreasing damage taken by 17%. Other option, if you find you're just not in trouble at all, you could go Conflagration, just to everything you hit then has an increased chance to be critically hit. Honestly, most passives here don't actually do a whole lot for us. You have a few options, but most of them are not going to be good. Next one's going to be Unstable Anomaly. This is just our, Resurrection skill. It's very good, especially when pushing higher Greater Rifts. And the last one is Unwavering Will, which most builds do not use, but this one does, because you're going to be standing still, channeling your Laser of Death a lot of the time. So it actually works really well with Disintegrate, because Disintegrate's damage ramps up over 2 seconds as you're channeling it. Unwavering Will, standing still for 1.5 seconds, gives you more armor, more all resist, more damage. So more toughness and more damage. So really, really good with this build. Okay. So you can see here just what the basic stats are. This is unbuffed. I'm going to show that first. Again, just everything you need to know. Here's your cube. So, unbuffed, we have 2.1 million cheat DPS, 35.5 million toughness. So when we buff with familiar, armor, magic weapon, now we're up to almost 2.7 million damage and almost 42 million toughness. Not a bad deal. As far as Paragon points go, pretty standard stuff. Move speed, just up to 25%. I don't have any on my gear, so it's 25% here, the rest into int. Offense tree, crit chance and crit damage are the most important things. Cooldown reduction does literally nothing for this build. There's nothing that we need off cooldown. So, attack speed next in CDR. Here, all resist, armor, life regen last. In the utility tree, area damage, life on hit. Again, resource cost reduction really doesn't matter that much, but it's still better than gold find. So, there we go. As far as our follower goes, very simple stuff. You just want CC, so either Azure Wrath or Thunder Fury on the weapon. Freeze and Deflection is good because it can freeze. Unity, Bolkathos Wedding Band, S of Johann, and of course the Cannot Die Relic. So again, you have your double Unity. So that is the build. Again, as I've done in the previous videos, I'm just going to put a quick 2-second break here, just for those who wanted to skip to gameplay. But stick around for those 2 seconds, and you will get your gameplay. Alright, for those of you who skipped ahead, we are about to get to gameplay. For those of you who have watched the entire video, you are awesome and my best friend ever. So, let's dive right into the gameplay. Like we've done in the other videos, we'll just go to greater if 55. Again, this is not the limit of the build. Again, as I've said, my gear is not completely optimized. So this isn't super, super high, but it is high enough that you can see that the build is legitimate. So, let's go ahead and get into our Rift. Just cast all 3 of our buffs, and off we go. Really, all you're doing is firing your Disintegrate Laser of Death at everything. That's your plan. It's really a very simple gameplay style. It's not nearly as complicated as some other things that I've shown. So I'll get into a little bit of the nuances of the build. Because Disintegrate ramps up over time, and because we're using the Unwavering Will passive, when possible, you want to just stand still channeling the laser. You don't want to constantly be moving, unlike some other builds out there. Because, again, your damage ramps up. Standing still for 1.5 seconds grants you increased damage and increased toughness. So, when possible, you want to not be moving. Of course, when things knock you back like that, it's very rude, and we don't appreciate it. But, that's what happens. So, again, we killed the pack. Now our Bane of the Powerful has procced, and our damage is up over 3 million on the sheet. So, that ain't bad. So, yeah, if at any point you feel like you need more Blizzards or Energy Twisters than you're just automatically getting from the Edge Sigil, of course you can throw them out there. But it really shouldn't happen too much, and that's why we only have the 2 Arcane Powers spenders out, is because we want to know that we're getting them out as much as possible. So they are actually getting spammed by this. And because it's from the item, it takes no arcane power at all, which is awesome. Which is, again, why if you do want to go the route of cubing the Aquila Cuirass, then that is definitely a way to go. And honestly, if you can survive okay, Waller is like one of the worst things that they can throw at you since your laser can't go through it. If you can survive the losing the damage of Witching Hour, I think it actually might be better, especially for pushing high-level Greater Rifts, to cube the Aquila Cuirass and have an Ancient Regressious Binding as your belt rather than the Witching Hour. I think that probably will be better. Again, I just haven't found an Ancient Regressious Binding, so I haven't really been able to test that. But I do think that will be the way to go, as long as you have enough damage without the crit damage off the Witching Hour. So yeah, this is not a complicated playstyle, and this is not something that requires you to, constantly be worrying about managing cooldowns or rotating abilities. This build is very simply fire your giant laser and, rain fiery hell down from above, which is part of why it appeals to me. I do like some of the more complicated builds. I've shown some of them, some of that, require, real good synergy between your items or your abilities, require you to really watch your positioning or, as I say, cycle through skills appropriately. This is none of that. This is literally just fire a laser at things. and it's nice. Sometimes there's joy to be gained from the simplicity of life, and if you agree with that, then this build is probably for you. Again, you do need to, of course, watch your positioning somewhat. You can see my health is going down quite a bit here, and if I don't watch out for those arcane sentries, then it will go down all the way. But when possible, when it's not going to kill you, you want to stand still as much as you can. Again, I'm taking that to the extreme here a little bit, which is why I almost died, but almost is fine. Oh, whoops. Okay, so I ran forward too quickly and popped my unstable anomaly. Of course, one of the things that they haven't changed yet is that Greater Rifts can still have a bunch of dead ends and make you guess which way to go, which I still think is super lame and should be changed. I guess now's as good a time as any to get into that little rant. Greater Rifts are supposed to be about testing your build and how fast can you progress, and how fast, you know, can you get through and kill all the enemies and, you know, take down the Rift Guardian and all that. It shouldn't be, did I guess which way to go correctly? That to me makes no sense, and I really, really wish they would do something about it. However, Blizzard obviously disagrees with me, does not feel that they should do anything about it, and so we all just kind of have to deal with it. But yeah, so as I said, you want to move around as little as possible. Again, you get significantly more damage standing still, both because of the Disintegrate itself, which ramps up over time, and because of the Unwavering Will passive. But again, don't just stand in something that's going to kill you, because, as I've mentioned before, you don't deal any damage while you're dead. Which is actually why the shield pylon is one of the best pylons that you can get. With some builds, it's kind of whatever, but the shield pylon with this build is amazing because it allows us to stand inside of anything, we don't care what, and just keep channeling. It is awesome. Love shielding pylon with this build. So yeah, it's I guess unlike some of my other videos, I don't have as much to say here just because the playstyle is quite simple. I don't need to sit here explaining all the nuances to you guys. If I do, then I'm sorry for you if throwing a giant laser at things is a bit complicated. But in all seriousness, it's this build is not designed to test the limits of your Diablo mechanical skill, I guess. What it is designed to do is be freaking awesome, and it accomplishes that quite well, I think. Again, if your only enjoyment comes from, you know, testing the limits of your mechanics and how well you can manage cooldowns and rotate through abilities and stuff, and that's the only way that you have enjoyment of this game, then yeah, you're probably not going to like this build very much. If, however, like me, you very much enjoy throwing a giant laser through things, watching health bars melt, and raining fiery death from above, then you probably will like it. And it's really, it's the nice part about what the new Legacy of Nightmares set has done. It's kind of a double-edged sword, in that it enables builds that wouldn't have worked otherwise. I actually, and maybe I should have mentioned this in the first part of the video, I actually first tested this build not with the Legacy of Nightmares set, but with the, what's it called? I have it here somewhere. Yeah, the Endless Walk set, which is while standing still, your damage is increased by 100%. Because again, you are standing still quite a bit. I tried it with that and with the Firebird set, which has been buffed. And I found it to be extremely underwhelming. It was nowhere near the level that you get with this. Now, part of that, of course, is that you need ancient items, and of course, ancient items just by themselves, even without the Legacy of Nightmares set, will give you more damage. That's kind of the whole deal behind the ancient stuff. If it wasn't better, it would be pretty pointless. So part of it is that. And a part of it, though, honestly, is that even though Firebirds has been buffed a bit, I still find it, how can I put this delicately? Bad. I really tried, because honestly, I love the Firebird set, just in concept, I guess. And I really want it to be good, so it's not just that I'm hating on it. Like, I actually really want the Firebird set to be good. And I tried a few different ways to make this work with it, and it just didn't. And you know what, and maybe it's just that this particular build doesn't work with Firebirds, and maybe there is a good Firebirds build out there that I didn't try. So maybe the set isn't as bad as I think it is. But I found it very underwhelming. Which was disappointing to me, because I wanted it to work. But it didn't. This, however, works quite well. And as I said, it's really the nice part about Legacy of Nightmares is that it really opens up possibilities that weren't there before. And I showed off, some of the newer items that really help: the Death Wish, the Edge Sigil, the Mantle of Channeling, all really, really nice to kind of put this build together. Now, I did say before that Legacy of Nightmares is kind of a double-edged sword, and the reason that I say that is just from a gear gathering standpoint, in that with other sets, while yes, you want everything to be ancient, and you're going to need it to be ancient if you really want to try to push the top of the leaderboards. If you just want to, try to do, Greater Rift, 55, 60 or whatever, you don't need everything to be ancient. But if you're doing a Legacy of Nightmares build, you really do need everything to be ancient, or else it's just not going to work the way that it should. And so that means that you have to spend a lot more time working on your gear, and you could find, that item that you need with all the right rolls on it, except that it's not ancient and therefore useless to you. Which doesn't feel good, I gotta say. And I speak from experience, because while I was trying to put this build together and do this video, I got a few times that I got an item with all the right rolls, except it wasn't ancient, and it was just didn't feel good. I actually can't tell you how many Mage Fists I picked up before I finally got this one that's ancient. I probably got a good 10 or so non-ancient Mage Fists. It was just very, very disappointing. But, that's part of why Legacy of Nightmares is good, though, I think. And that is that it can cause frustration, especially if you're not trying to push the top of leaderboards. But if you are, or if you really just want to see what your build can do, I mean, getting everything ancient is the way to go. Plus the new recipe where you can infuse... I'm just going to cut myself off real quick and say that Channeling Pylon is amazing for some builds and does literally nothing for this build. Because, again, your cooldowns are non-existent. You don't have cooldowns to worry about. So, yeah, I'm just going to forget my other train of thought. Just watch the Rift Guardian's health. Again, this is not completely optimized build. It's greater 55, so 173 billion health, and look how it's melting. That's part Bane of the Stricken, part Bane of the Powerful, but yeah. You just stand there and look at it, it melts, and she, brings out her little things, and you're like, yeah, whatever. So, I will say this isn't actually the fastest that I've done. I think the fastest that I've done has been about a minute faster. So not a huge deal. But again, it's not completely optimized. So right now, we have a build that, without being completely optimized, can easily run 55. Which means that if it is optimized, if you have a better helm than this, because this isn't great, ideally I think your helm actually should be int, crit chance, and disintegrate damage. That'd be your ideal helm. You have this. This one is rolled fine, although I'd rather it be ancient, but I actually went through a lot of Wailing Host. I had to re-roll Wailing Host maybe 5 or 6 times before I got this. Because you do want int, crit damage, crit chance socket. This is not rolled right because it has no crit chance on it. It has attack speed instead. You may have noticed earlier that my Cinder Coat is dexterity instead of intelligence. This means I'm actually missing quite a bit of damage there. This is just a random, pants. Random boots. Although these aren't terrible, but anyway. Point is, if you do completely optimize the build, this definitely goes 60 plus in Greater Rifts. No question. No question goes 60 plus in Greater Rifts. So, thank you, Legacy of Nightmares, for making, I guess, custom builds, so to speak. I mean, obviously there's only so much innovation that can be done. If I've come up with this build, I'm sure, thousands of other people have too. But it makes quote-unquote custom builds much more viable, which is really, really nice. So thank you, Legacy of Nightmares. Hope you guys enjoyed this build. Definitely encourage you to test it out. I will say that because it's a Legacy of Nightmares build, you do have to get all ancient gear, and trying to do that can be a pain in the butt. But if you're able to do it, this build is super fun. And again, it's only going to get better. With all my buffs on, and actually I screwed up, by the way, and I'm sure if you were watching this, you noticed this well before I did, because I just saw it right now. I let all these buffs expire, which means that I actually could have completed the rift faster than I did. So that's my bad. So yeah, if you're actually paying attention to what you're doing, unlike me, I guess, you keep your buffs up, and you optimize your gear, this is definitely a Greater Rift 60 plus build, no question. It might not be the single best build for the wizard, in fact I'm sure it isn't, but it should be up there. Like you said, you might not get to the top leaderboards, but you can easily do 60 plus with the right gear. I'm 100% sure of it. So this is probably the longest video I've done on the PTR so far, and it's just because I had so much to explain, I guess, beforehand. So for those of you who stuck it out, thank you, and I'm glad you enjoyed the video enough to do that. In any case, if there's anything else you guys want to see, let me know in the comments. Let me know what you thought of the video, what you think of the build, if you thought of anything I didn't. If you know of a specific helm, actually, because I haven't really looked for it yet, let me know if there's something you think would work really well with this build, and I'll see if I can find one. Or pants for that matter too, I guess. Boots even. Yeah, so if there's anything that you can think of that I didn't mention specifically that will make this build better, let me know. If you're testing it out after watching this video, let me know your results. Let me know if you enjoy it. Other than that, I hope you guys did like the video. Maybe learned something a little bit. And I will see you next time.